The biggest story of the offseason, not only for the San Francisco 49ers, but across the NFL, has been regarding Brandon Aiyuk's ongoing contract negotiation and the turbulence that has kind of been a part of it throughout the entirety, starting back right at the end of the Super Bowl. So, obviously, with training camp right down the road, just 2 weeks away, there are a lot of questions of, is this deal going to get done? Or is Brandon Aiyuk going to be forced to play on his fifth-year option? Or could he be traded? Well, we have George Kittle and Jerry Rice chime in on the matter. But first, let's listen to George Kittle as he was talking with Rich Eisen about this situation and what he feels about it. So take a listen right here. We'll react to what George has to say. And then I will show you a clip from 49ers Talk podcast with Matt Mayoko, where Jerry Rice goes into detail about his perception of this situation with Brandon Aiyuk.
You must get a ton of people like, is Aiyuk going to be there?
Oh.
No. What do you say?
Well, I would say, I think if you look at, my career being a 49er and where like most of the contracts have gone, like I didn't get signed till like the second week of training camp. Debo was pretty late.
Bosa was late too.
Bosa was the first week of the season. I was like, that's just how business is done out there. And like, I'm not in the meetings. Like, I have no idea.
Right.
I actually go out of my way to not talk to anybody going through contract negotiations. So when people ask me questions, I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. But like, I'm not concerned about it. Ayuk's a phenomenal football player who's a big part of our offense. And he's like one of the most complete receivers that like I've ever played with. So I'm going to assume that Ayuk's going to be on our team by the time the season starts.
All right.
Now, you can't argue with George Kittle's approach. He doesn't want to know anything because, as we know, he's going to be asked about everything San Francisco 49ers. And, of course, doesn't want to give anything away because it's above his pay grade when it's all said and done. But I do like the fact that he does say he's not concerned, and he does believe that Brandon Aiyuk will be on the San Francisco 49ers this year. Obviously, kind of steering away from, is he going to get the extension? Is it a fifth-year option? I don't think George is necessarily worried about that all that much. He's just worried about, will BA be a part of the team, essentially? And so he seems to not be concerned. But I do think it's interesting to hear from the GOAT, Jay Rice, the greatest to ever play the position, who happens to have very close ties with the San Francisco 49ers, obviously. So, like I said earlier, he joined Matt Mayoko on the 49ers Talk podcast to go more in depth on this situation and kind of how he's perceiving it and what he think could be the potential outcome. Take a listen to what the GOAT, Jerry Rice, has to say right here.
I think these guys want to do it their way, and I respect that. And, but I'll be there to support them 100%. And if they want to talk to me, they want to ask me any questions, they can do that.
You know the business side of it. So what's Brandon Aiyuk going through right now? He's signed for this year, but doesn't have that long-term deal. You see how receivers these days are cashing in. Well, put yourself in Brandon Aiyuk's shoes. How would you be handling this?
Well, I think he would love to have had that security already, and he wouldn't have to really think about it, and he can just go play football. But still, he has opportunity where he can just showcase his ability, and it's a one-year deal. Then he can go anywhere he wants to go. I think the main thing for him right now, he just got to play his best football. He got to, show everybody that, hey, look, I'm that number one guy, and if you make me that number one guy, I'm gonna be productive. I appreciate that. 7-11, always open, 24/7, baby. Charles Wilson, man, he's a great individual, and I had so many great years with him, man. One of those shutdown corners, very talented. And we, because he has a whiskey out there, then I have goat fuel, so we go back and forth.
Yeah, which one fuels you more?
Yeah. But I think his main focus right now, Brandon Aiyuk, is just to play football, and just let his ability speak for itself. And we'll see what happens after the season.
Is it difficult to keep that, like knowing, like there's contract stuff, but if the 49ers don't sign him to a long-term extension, he still has to have a great year in order to get paid by the 49ers or somebody else.
That's in his control.
Yeah.
That's what you want. So it's up to him to put him in the arena where, not saying he's not already there, but, where he could, be the highest paid. So, hey, I would love to have a year like that, just to prove myself and just to go out there and play football.
What do you think happens there? I mean, it seems like he and Brock Purdy really have a good rapport, and you would think, that's something they'd want to keep together. But can you?
I don't know. That's up to management, and they make the decisions. They do all of those things, and we'll see what happens, though. But we can't let that be a distraction or anything, because that door eventually going to close. Mm-hmm. And we are so close right now, we got to kick it in.
What do you think when you see these wide receiver contracts?
I still enjoy the era that I played in. Uh-huh. So I know there's more money and everything, but I didn't play the game for all the money. I played the game because I love the game.
Yeah, and you still love the game. I'm sure you'll be there week 1, 49ers
yes,
and Jets,
yes,
Monday Night Football.
Yes, I will.
All right, Jerry Rice, the GOAT.
Bottom line, when it's all said and done, we are inching closer and closer to that invisible deadline. Now, you heard George Kittle talk about it as well. He talked about kind of the speed in which these deals get done. Talked about Nick Bosa when he got paid was right before week 1. You heard that Deebo Samuel got paid a couple weeks into training camp. He got paid about a week into training camp. So it's been a pretty consistent pacing for the San Francisco 49ers, but I know from speaking with fans every single day, and on top of that, my own personal opinion, I don't love that. I don't think fans like that. I don't like it personally, and I think it really does play a role into how these players perform the following season. And it comes from multiple different perspectives, whether it's mentally dealing with the stress of having to deal with these conversations back and forth, the uncertainty that comes along with it. As we know, Brandon Aiyuk's situation has been extremely public. So everyone's talking about it. Everyone's commenting on it. Fans have their opinions one way or the other. And it just based on the track record, it hasn't necessarily lent itself to being like, oh, well, this is the best thing for the football team. This is the best thing for performance on the field, because it seems like Deebo Samuel had a bit of a down year after he got paid. Nick Bosa had a bit of a down year after he got paid, and he talked about how missing training camp actually was a bit of a detriment for him. And honestly, I thought out of anyone in the NFL, if anyone could miss training camp and be perfectly fine, I thought it was Nick Bosa. But apparently Nick Bosa says that, you got to get that callus built up. You got to get your legs under you during training camp. And as we know, Brandon Aiyuk has been the best player in training camp the past 2 seasons in a row. And I just hope we don't see a situation where we get a holdout into training camp. I would prefer a hold in. I maybe that's where we're at this current point, because as we've kind of heard, Brandon Aiyuk has apparently been in the locker room and working out every day for the past couple weeks. So the hope is that he shows up to training camp, he participates, and during this time they continue to work on a deal. We've seen hold-ins happen all the time where guys will show up, but they're still dead set on getting a new contract opposed to holding out. So those are the questions that remain. It's going to be fascinating to see how this ultimately plays out. But I want to know what you guys think about what George said, what Jerry Rice said. I want to know how you feel about this situation, and are you starting to get concerned based on the potential of Brandon Aiyuk missing some of training camp? If not all of it, who knows? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.